Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
And welcome to the GammaCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And tonight we have a very special guest host, 80s music girl herself.
Yay, me!
It's Rose! Yes, hello, Rose.
Me.
Welcome.
Hi, Charlie, how are you?
We have missed you. We have. You have always been a fun
I missed you too. I thought I was in the naughty corner for a while there.
No. It just Maz really likes the show too, and I didn't. And I know you got like a lot of other podcasts, so I didn't want to push. It's always you want to be very considerate of people. Anyway,
yes.
So tonight's episode, Equinox, first aired it's episode 21. It is season 3, episode 21. Actually, first aired March 21st, 1980. Sadly, something we realized on this one, it's only episode 19 on Hulu, because Hulu had dropped 2 other episodes this season.
Jeez.
And they don't go into the 4th season, and they have like 3 episodes from the 4th season stuck onto the end of the 3rd season. So
that's terrible.
Not feeling you, Hulu. Not feeling you right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, tonight's episode is Equinox. David Belden is working in the library of a spoiled heiress who insists that he attends her Equinox masquerade ball, or masquerade party. Having almost caught his quarry during the previous Hulk-out, McGee joins the party wearing a disguise and carrying a tranquilizer gun. Meanwhile, one of the guests has had enough of the hosts bullying everyone around and plans his revenge. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. Bum, bum, bum.
Directed by Patrick Boyriven. Writers were Kenneth Johnson and Andrew Schneider this episode. A nice cast. One character, as I'm going through our IMDb, who really excited me, is Henry Pollock II, who plays...
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, he plays Cousin Donald. He first off, because you always like a comic book tie-in, he was the Scarecrow on Batman the Animated Series.
Nice. He
does the voice there. He did a bunch of voices on Yo-Yogi and Paddington Bear, the Smurfs. He was Jerry Silver for 55 episodes on Webster.
Yeah.
So if you want that little 80s tie-in, he apparently was Wild Shark in the Superman TV series in 1988.
Wow.
Yeah. He was on a show called The Dukes. Where that was his voice. Oh, that's the Dukes cartoon. Oh. Yeah, Bo and Luke Duke, when they were traveling around the world, being chased by Bog Horse. They just have him his voice. They don't say what he played. Did a lot of additional voices in the Shirt Tales. Fonz and the Happy Days Gang, one of my favorite cartoon series when I was a very little kid in the 1980s. So this guy was all around there, and it was nice seeing him here as the sort of gold digging cousin, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually wrote his name down because I take notes when I watch these, and he was like the second note that I took, mainly because he was Henry Pollock II.
Yes.
And I thought that was unique because I'm like, who's Henry Pollock the First?
I'm guessing his father.
I would think so.
Yes.
And then I went and looked him up on IMDb just so I could reference him. And he was in, and I didn't even realize that there was a TV series of the Monster Squad, but he played Dracula in the Monster Squad TV series.
Oh, did I miss that? How did I miss that? I love the Monster Squad TV series.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, this, and then I thought, oh, this guy,
Yeah,
I know
that
him.
is, you know why? Because they probably didn't go all the way back to the 70s here. Because I believe the Monster Squad started like very end of the 70s, and oh, he was in the last remake of Beau Geste as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's gotten around.
and he also played the sheriff of Nottingham in When Things Were Rotten, which was Mel Brooks's original medieval TV series. Yeah, there is.
Isn't that funny?
1976, Monster Squad. For those who don't remember, I think it was Fred Gainey, the guy who went on to play Gopher on The Love Boat.
Oh yeah, Fred.
Yes, he is a criminologist working in a Fred Grandy. Sorry, Fred Grandy. He's a criminologist working in a wax museum who has a supercomputer that accidentally brings the wax figures to life, who then go out to fight crime to make good on the evil deeds created by their fictional counterparts.
Wow.
How that's not still on the air today, I have no idea. But you know what? You have to take things as
you
it
know.
comes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
The other guy who I was very excited to see him, well, not see him, but to see his IMDb was our skipper, our nice little easily bribed drunken skipper, Danny Dayton. He was on It's Gary Shandling's show, which was one of my very favorite early Fox TV. He played Mr. Peck in 4 episodes. I don't recall who Mr. Peck was, but I'm just glad to see that he was working. Okay, let's get to the actual plot line. Now, this is an interesting episode because we actually open with a Hulk.
Yeah.
Which means this makes it a 3 Hulk episode and a 3.
Yes.
Not like Hulks with flashbacks, but 3 actual solid Hulks, and that was very interesting to me. Although, whenever you do that, it always makes me wonder what was the plot line that got us to the Hulk. What caused that first Hulk out? In Proof Positive, we had the same thing, and that one was even more exciting because he has the Hulk out, and then he hangs around until Jack McGee shows up, It's like, what orphanage was he saving that he had to stay for another week till Jack McGee showed up? And here we actually get a nice explanation for why he's saying, which is that he's trapped on an island, and an evil lady won't let him leave. Diane Powell.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Although I gotta say, I thought it was very interesting that, David has been hired as the librarian here. Again, just this wonderful thing about the 80s, man. Nobody did background checks.
No reference checks, no background checks. You know how to be a historian, librarian? Okay, come on to my expensive mansion and we'll talk and let you reorganize my father's library.
Yeah. Well, last episode, Death Mask, we got this very interesting thing where David gets arrested, and they basically say you've got this guy, that you have a driver's license from Montana and a social security card, and none of these have the name you're currently using on it, And this guy was at that time employed at the university, again as a librarian. So...
Yeah, he's moving up in the world. Yeah. He's not a dishwasher or a taxi cab driver. So.
Yeah. Well, he does. He's finding work more inclined with his skill set, apparently.
Ability. Yes. Absolutely.
And this was a particularly good library because apparently, Diane Powell's father was some sort of geneticist.
Yes.
Although they say that the family made their money in shipping, so I'm guessing that. Basically, he was a gentleman scientist. That the family's money was a shipping thing, but he was a gentleman scientist with a very ornate and exciting library on genetic research. Which is what attracted.
As you do.
As you do. Well, hey, and it makes you wonder, like, did David seek out this place and then find out that they were looking for a librarian? Did he just luck into the fact that he saw a librarian job? He went to apply for it, and then it turns out that it's the there's like some gaps here. Although here's what I'm going to say: one of the things I like about this is that we really see Jack McGee doing better as a reporter.
Yes, and that was my first line of my first topic line is we actually get to see him in this episode. Not briefly, he is throughout the entire episode.
Yes, this is this is a good Jack McGee episode, and he's right there when the Hulk first shows up, which is a good thing because it shows that he's getting good at figuring out where the Hulk's going to go next. You know?
And he was chasing him too.
Oh yeah, he's right on top of him.
Not quite that smart on his, but he's just desperate. I think that's the term.
Well, and we get a nice bit in there too because to give you just to give you some backstory because there is sort of a little back thing in here. We have Diane Powell, our jet-setting bon vivant heiress, has taken kindly to a married man by the name of Alan Grable, who feels he is owed something because he basically, he cheated on his wife, and now his wife wants a divorce and feels that, this is all
her fault.
This is all, Diane's fault. And
because she doesn't want him anymore.
Well, yeah, because he was just a fling to her.
Absolutely.
And not for nothing, you got to deal with that sometimes.
This is true.
First off, if you're gonna cheat, and you got to understand that the person who you're cheating with, who knows you're married, is not probably someone that wants to have that lifelong commitment with you anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that whole. If you dance to the music, you got to be willing to pay the piper.
Yeah, and well, except this guy, and again, it is this fascinating aspect of the Hulk universe that everyone's first thought, if something goes wrong, have we tried murdering them yet?
Yes.
Although for what it's worth, they do. I mean. Now, to me, I pretty much knew Alan was the murderer the second he walked in. The second he does his whole, but my wife is going to leave me and I can't afford the alimony thing.
Yeah.
I knew that he was going to be the one to be the murderer.
How can you tell with all those patent leather shoes? I just saw, throughout the whole episode, it's just like some guy would walk in and they reference his shoes and they're like, oh, is that the killer?
Yeah, well, because they kept on tying that back, and of course they do that little head fake, and that's the thing, you have like Donald there, who is the cousin, who I guess one could argue he might have a motive in the fact that maybe if Diane died, he'd inherit the wealth, but that of course assumes she doesn't already have a will made up where she gives it all to charity,
this is
and how much control she has over her fortune, you're not quite sure because you see that one of the requirements of her inheritance is that she had to maintain her father's genetics library.
Absolutely.
Which, of course, worked out great for David,
And I like the bit where they're all sitting around the table and Donald's explaining his recent trip, to talk to people about some movie or something, and she looks over at David and she just breaks it all down to him in layman's terms.
Yeah.
And then she's like, and in the 80s, mind you, get this. This movie's about a drug-crazed killer in a hippie commune. Yes. And I'm going, yeah, that works.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think that would have been a very big hit in the 80s, but,
Yeah, if you could throw Freddie in there and then Michael Myers and anybody that died in a campsite, come on now. A commune, that's a step up.
Yeah, well, maybe what her point was that, and I guess, obviously, Donald was actually ahead of his time. So I think at the end of this, Donald came out okay. I think
I think he did.
winds up as like, in the Hulkiverse. If they ever revisit this, you're going to go to, a Donald Powell production,
There you go.
you know, of the Hulk
That would
movie,
be.
because now he's seen the Hulk. But but I kind of felt that they did make it pretty clear that it was going to be Alan. I mean, yeah, they even suggest that maybe even Pierce might have wanted to do it,
It's true.
because
Yeah.
they show him with the knife and the apple, and he
Yeah.
goes, and the Powell women always get their way,
Yeah.
which
Ooh,
yeah, well,
that's a backstory in itself.
yeah, well, not for nothing. It makes me, wonder, like, did a previous Powell woman have her way with him?
This is true.
And for what it's worth,
Pierce has always worked for the Powells.
yes, and well, and if they do have that kind of a relationship, that suggests there's probably a lot of DNA mixing between the two groups. If the
Right.
Pierces have always been the retainers of the Powells, that means that the Pierces, that there's more than a few bastard Powells among the Pierces, and probably
Right.
a couple of bastard Pierces amongst the Powells.
I would think so.
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
would think
if
so.
nothing else, it's entirely possible that Diane is actually Pierce's daughter.
And like I said, just backstories aplenty.
Oh yeah,
You just don't know.
there's always these things, and for what it's worth, you see that we see that Diane does have a lot of daddy issues because her father was a great guy with a test tube,
Mm-hmm.
Which again might be why maybe her mom sought some solace with Pierce,
You just wrap that up in a nutshell.
Exactly. But it also suggests maybe why she is so attracted to David.
Right.
Who is, again, an aloof science type. It's just your basic Freudian electric complex.
Yeah.
And of course she does do her best to seduce him.
Yeah, boy, she doesn't get very far, does she?
No, which is surprising with a guy like David. Because he...
Well, and it was kind of funny, even after she slapped him, and and he doesn't even flinch. That's awesome. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess if you're a guy like David Banner, first off, he knows this ain't the last, beautiful lady who's going to come across his doorstep. And, and he has to go, and she won't let him leave the island, So he was not ingratiated to her. So I can follow his perspective on that. Anyway, so we get to our big. So Jack McGee comes to the island because he hears about.
I know,
costume
swims,
party.
mind you.
Oh yeah,
swims from the boat.
And again, it's one of these moments where I'm saying, man, Jack McGee really. You realize why he is a respected reporter in this one.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy. He's going to go out there. And not even like, oh, I've never used this before. It's like, yeah, no, I've, you kind of get the feeling this is not the first island compound I've snuck into.
Yeah, I've tranked quite a few people in my day.
Yeah, you got, and as you always, you got to wonder, the whole McGee backstory, the McGee files. There's stories there to be told.
Yeah, he's a bit crass. Don't you think he's got kind of a scuzzy underlying quality about him?
Who, Jack McGee? Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he is an 80s muckraker.
Yeah.
So he is like
an ambulance chaser.
Yeah. Well, he's at once a Woodward and Bernstein in the idea that this is a point where investigative reporters are seen as sort of these great heroes, but at the same time he also has this almost Hemingway-esque level of debauchery to him, where you kind of feel like, and he does have this obsession with the Hulk, which I think adds to his crassness. And not for nothing, he is an unreformed relic of the Mad Men era.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, this started in the late 70s, man. This was these were guys that was the world they grew up in, and that was not an uncommon way to be. To the point where we're honestly, I think there were times where the people felt that he was a paragon of feminist virtue. And that he doesn't necessarily, treat women in any particularly worse way than he treats everyone else. He's
Right.
He's a pretty uniform guy there. But he goes there, and he's trying to figure out where David is or John is, because he's still, even though at this point he should be calling him David because he knows that's. At this point, he should know that is the pseudonyms he uses. Is they're always David's.
Yeah. And he should truthfully know who he is.
Well, yeah.
I just, and unless, he really wasn't privy to that information, and in the costume room where they have that very poignant conversation, and I thought, oh my God, he's going to tell him. What? And, he references him killing David Banner and the other doctor, and it's just like, okay, so he really doesn't know who this is.
No, he doesn't. And I think a lot of it, the Mystery Man episode fed into that, because that was where he really got to be with this guy, not knowing him as David at the time. Because in Hulk Breaks Las Vegas, he knows there's something familiar about David's voice.
Right.
But after the Mystery Man episode, he is so fixated on this John character.
Yeah.
He never ties it back to David.
Right. Calls him John Doe, actually, which is really weird.
Well, because he was a John Doe, because he had a traumatic brain injury and couldn't remember his name, so they just called him John Doe.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why he keeps on referring to him as John Doe, because that's the one time he knew he had the guy.
Yeah.
And possibly on some level it is maybe him just trying to connect with this guy. Anyway, so at the party, it's a Equinox-themed holiday party, and I actually really liked this thematic that she does, where she's Persephone, returned from the underworld, and I really thought that was a lot of fun. And everyone's, and for as much as they imply that she's a bully, it seemed like everyone liked her and was having a good time, The only people that were really having a bad time were Alan, who, quite frankly, is a lech to start, and
this is true.
And Donald, for what it's worth, they're cousins. I'm sure he was used to the belittling by now,
Oh yeah, but he it seems as though he has someone that he's taking under his wing and mentoring, so to speak. So he basically had I think he didn't have time for the BS, so he was going to have fun at the party regardless, because she kind of did have him. I made it seem like she kind of had him by the dongles with her money.
Yeah.
And if he needed any more money, he knew that he had to go to her, so he wasn't going to make any waves.
Well, exactly.
So.
Exactly. Although again, where they're always trying to make the implications here of the bad guys is after she gets pushed.
Yes.
You have Donald and Carlo, Robert Giannetti, who goes on to be a relatively successful director throughout Hollywood and television after this.
Nice.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of acting credits, but a lot of directing and assistant directing credits. So he did okay for himself, and also why he doesn't have any lines in this episode. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Donald saves her, and then they focus in on his shoes. He wears shoes too, and part of me was almost like thinking, oh, did he like try to kill her then save her so that now she's indebted to her? But
totally thought that.
Yeah. But then we kind of quickly go to David's confront. This is after David has had his Hulk out, and then the Hulk wanders through the party, and the lady with the in the monk robe with the featureless mask.
Oh my gosh!
She was so excited to be there.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, and just so many references to hot tubs. It's like, okay, we get it. It's 1980. Yes, there's going to be lots of hot tub scenes from here on out.
Yes. Well,
Even going to be a movie about it with people getting in a hot tub and they go back
to the 80s, man, because that's the point of perfect hot tubbery, I guess.
Apparently so.
Yeah, but and of course it's once again people commenting on what a big guy Lou Ferrigno is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
If you take that funny mask off, we might be able to work something out.
Yeah.
No, that's his face. How much have you had to drink, young lady?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's our girlfriend, I guess she's credited as here, or maybe that was Tina. I'm not sure. Anyway, she David, and this of course when David reverts back, goes into the costume room, puts on, as luck would have it, the exact same costume as the killer. Although actually it's a little different because he's wearing swashbuckler boots, which I thought was such a great comic book reference because of course that is a very comic book thing to wear, those cuffed swashbuckler boots. Honestly, I didn't know that people actually wore those. Now I want a pair of swashbuckler boots. Now that I know that's a real thing, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to get those. And it was a little annoying to me that she did think it was him because of course clearly his boots were a reddish, was sort of an oxblood color, whereas the killer's shoes were clearly black. So,
exactly.
But of course she is certain that the person who tried to kill her must have been David, and that's why he didn't want to be with her and all this kind of stuff. And she locks him in the closet.
Yeah.
And as Pierce, walks out, after they've captured him to alert the police, Alan comes in and has his final confrontation. Meanwhile, down at the party, McGee has been sort of found out by Donald and Pierce that he is an uninvited guest, and so they tell. And this I thought was kind of cool. He says, "There's a man who's going back to the island with the police in a moment. You can ride with him," which I thought was, oh, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, I thought, oh, way to be the big man there, Pierce. And actually, with the cash that McGee had been flashing around with the boat captain, I thought, oh, maybe you kind of get the idea that maybe Pierce might have taken a few bucks for himself, but he, I think, truly was dedicated to Diane.
That's his daughter, man. You gotta understand.
Well, and it probably is, and that's definitely the way. Maybe it should have been played out, but that would have been like a double episode or something.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this was a good episode, I think. Anyway, so we get our third Hulk out because David does break out of the closet, does get the guy off of her, but then the Alan gets the drop on David.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Yeah, and starts slamming his head in the closet.
Yeah. I was like, really? That's a strange way to knock somebody off, but
yeah. Well, I kind of got the feeling at this point Alan was pretty far gone. He was way over on the dark side at this point, so he wasn't even. I don't even think he was thinking about practicalities. And we get what I think was one of the most interesting Hulk variations that they've done so far, where they sort of inflate the shirts.
Yeah. I saw that.
And you really can, it really looks like, that because, when, at the time, you could buy inflatable Hulk muscles.
Yeah.
Because I remember as a kid how much I wanted inflatable Hulk muscles, and you would just wear them, and then you would just start pumping them, and then, grrr. I remember the cartoon because the little kid pumps up his things. All the other bullies are now scared of him. He grabs the ice cream cone and crushes it. It's like, you can be the Hulk, and it was a great commercial. But they do it here, and you see that he just inflates up, and then of course you have Lou Ferrigno, pop out of his Cavalier boots, and he beats Ellen, and he does push Jack McGee to the side, but he doesn't go after Jack McGee. He's not mad at Jack McGee.
No.
He knows who the villain is. No. The villain is Alan. He totally breaks McGee's gun because it's like, he doesn't want him to be messing with him. Yeah. And, he, of course, traps him in the four-poster bed because once you knock the canopy down, man, no one can get out of that.
Absolutely.
That's just
that
science.
Sucker's heavy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's physics for you.
And then he, picks up Diane and runs off with her. And I guess it was kind of weird to me. I kind of wanted him to do something to wake her up. almost like he had some medical knowledge there, like breathe into her mouth with his Hulk lungs. I don't know.
Well, and the fact that he got out without anyone seeing him take her, which is kind of because clearly they had the only one staircase.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah. They might have had more than they might have just looked very similar.
This is true.
But they actually have multiple staircases throughout the house.
Yeah.
This is a big. Honestly, this is a big supervillain mansion on a private island off the coast of Massachusetts. So it's. It's got to be pretty intricate. Anyway, she takes him down. So he takes her down. She wakes up just as he's turning back. She gets some sense that something weird was going on with him. And then, they hug it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I looked at this episode as a sort of taming of the shrew moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of coined it. That was my last note. The beasts that tamed the beast.
Mm.
Because technically she really kind of was a bit of a beast when, she didn't get her way. She obviously had numerous temper tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wasn't falling for it. So she knew where she stood with that, and he saved her life. So, she apologized, which was great.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think so. I think that really really worked out nicely. And then she helps him escape, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is one of those moments where you kind of feel like, you know what, David, you could come back here. It's a private island.
Mm-hmm.
She's got money
and
the library. You could come back here in a couple months and really, focus this out. But
absolutely,
maybe not. I don't know. Anyway,
no, because where would the other episodes go? I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. That's always the problem. But he does say he's going to try and write. Because he always says he'll get back in touch, but.
He must have a lot of letters that he writes.
Yeah, well, he can't.
He's just.
But he can't write too many because he doesn't want to leave a trail for Jack. That's the thing. He has to run, and it's like there's a lot of people he wants to go back to. Heck, there is a long list of ladies that he wants to get back in touch with, but he's gonna have a hard time doing it so long as the beast dwells within.
The beast within.
Yes. Okay.
Did you notice any little? I noticed a little kind of it's not I want to say snafu, but when he gets on the boat at the beginning, and the captain gives him the blanket, and he's covering himself up, and Jack McGee has a oh my goodness moment, and he turns and looks towards the boat, and he sees David in the boat with the blanket.
Mm-hmm.
That was either a stunt double or a mannequin. That was not.
Oh, yeah.
Because the hair was different, and he kind of rocked back and forth like somebody had a mannequin on board, and he had absolutely no to him. So
we do know that Bill Bixby was, and I say Bill Bixby's a diva. I don't know. It may also be that they just didn't want to pay Bill Bixby to come in that day for that shot.
Yeah,
it's like the in the Proof Positive episode. I don't know if you ever saw it, but that's like the one episode where David isn't in it at all, and Bill Bixby doesn't even do a cameo.
Wow.
So they use a stunt double every time you see John Doe running, because it's a totally Jack McGee centric episode. So
I'm gonna have to go back.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. That's where you meet Patricia Steinhauer, another woman that falls for these women just fall for Jack McGee and David Banner at least once an episode. And this was
poor things.
Yeah, this was Jack McGee's episode to have some lady fall head over heels over him for no particular reason other than he's hey, his name is on the opening credits. Any final thoughts, Rose? Any final thoughts, Rose?
I really like the premise of this episode. I like that it was it was different. It was on the East. Well, they've done ones on the East Coast before, but I liked that it was a different setting, and it was you didn't see him traveling. He was already there, kind of a thing. And he seemed to have a little bit more put together in this episode. Yeah. He didn't seem so lost and confused. He, really was doing a bit better for himself. So I liked that part of it. And the fact that McGee was in quite a bit of the episode, that's always good, because you just kind of think, you're not doing a very good job if we don't see you chasing him around something at some point, But, yeah. Okay. But it was a really good episode.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a very strong episode. It's we always talk about, is a Hulk necessary in this episode? And I don't know if a Hulk was necessary in this episode, but I thought it was a good episode for the Hulk.
Yes.
I kind of felt like the episode wasn't necessary for the Hulk. I thought that there was a great story for David to have here, especially the David Jack thing in which, this other storyline is really, almost a trite framework, to the point where you could have even written out the murder subplot, and I think you could have even still told the story and had a really good story. But it was very good, even with the murder subplot, and so, really liked it. Rose, how can people find you if they want to talk to you about this or anything else?
I am at 80s Music Girl on Twitter, 80s Music Girl on Facebook, and 80s Music Girl on Instagram. And I want to thank all of my fans out there that are liking my 80s Music Girl page on Facebook. I appreciate all of you very much. I'm ramping up the likes every week, and it's really awesome. So that means you're listening to the shows, which is great. Thanks so much.
Very good. And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet the Incredible Hulk every Saturday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time when I can on MeTV at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for hulking out with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please hulk out with us again.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.